There's been a lot of interest in this program because it's an MBA, but it's a brief one. It's a short time. There's the 5-day or the 10-day version. It starts off with describing the industry, so that we present the industry structure of the oil and gas industry around the world, going through the value chain. Then we're looking at economic concepts and how to evaluate projects. Also project finance, the concepts needed to understand how to raise finance for projects. Legal and contractual framework, and finishing off the first week with strategy, the business strategy and how to do strategic planning in the oil and gas industry. Now, in addition, particularly for the 10-day version, there's more time to look at management and leadership issues, how you manage oil and gas companies and the sort of organisational structure that you should expect to find. There's also plenty on, as well as leadership and management, was able to look at the regulatory framework and spend more time to really drill down more into economic analysis concepts, so that people can get a better idea of how to apply the various techniques and how to understand how to manage oil and gas businesses at a strategic level. Yes, having done this on a very large number of occasions now, I'm coming to see that there are the same sorts of challenges and issues that delegates keep facing. I think usually I find that delegates have learnt a number of concepts and terms, but they've heard the words very often and don't really understand what they mean and how to apply them. This leads to a lack of confidence. Very often, if you're developing a big project in an international oil and gas business, you get international financiers coming in with lots of grand terms and ideas, and they're throwing all this jargon around, and people are quite confused. They've heard the words, but they're not really sure how to respond. So this course and these courses give people the confidence to understand what it is that's going on, and they get some practice in applying these concepts, but most important, they understand what's going on so they can speak back to industry professionals on an equal basis. Well, I think the way to answer that is to consider competency. That in very many countries, in the oil and gas industry, people are very clever and very well educated. Very often most have been to university and often been to universities in the West, Europe or America. But lack sufficient experience, practical experience in applying the concepts. And I think this is one of the important gaps, is that competency, which is the combination of ability and knowledge and being able to apply in practical situations for their work. Yes, of course, many years ago, decades ago, I was in British Gas. I was the corporate planner for British Gas and part of the corporate strategy team. And this was during that time when British Gas was going through a very major restructuring process. Since then, I've been in business, in training and consultancy, in the energy business for many years, 15, 20 years, something like that. So a lot of good experience. And that has been almost entirely international and largely in emerging markets. So I think one of the things that I can bring is lots of war stories. There's lots of experience, practical experiences that I've seen of how companies and people have behaved in the oil and gas industry in different situations. Yes, indeed. We do use a very blended learning style with a number of different elements. One part, of course, is the presentations, where the trainer is presenting some material, making good use of PowerPoints and backup, and supporting written material, supporting that. But in addition, there are a lot of case studies, presenting real-life situations, of industries, companies or countries that have faced a similar problem and how they have dealt with. So it's giving some practical examples of how a situation is dealt with. Business exercises, so that there's an opportunity to practice some of the material as it's explained. So shortly after it's explained, then there's an exercise so that people can practice the concept for themselves. Business games and simulations is a very important part of this program, and a very important part of that is that it's fun and friendly and competitive, so that delegates can get on and really get into it. For example, there's a game where they have some oil or gas products and they need to get that into markets, and how do you do this? And these are very reflective of real life situations of how the industry really works. Sometimes we can bring in guest speakers to talk about particular areas, and it's very important to have a change of presentation. It's not just the trainer droning on all the time, but you have the trainer, then you have an exercise, a case study, a business game, so there are lots of different things going on. And I think another very important part that makes this different from any competitor program is that I take a big effort to make sure that it's relevant to your particular industry. So there is time taken out of this where we're going through your own national country's industry structure and the issues facing your own country. Very often delegates know about their own job and their own work, but they don't know about their own oil and gas industry in their country, and we make sure that this is really brought into the program, so you're really understanding and applying all this material to your own national situation. Yes, there are many practical benefits. There's no point going on a course if you can't usefully apply it and learn from it and use it in your own work and industry afterwards. I think knowing the concepts is very important, that people have heard of the various business strategy or economic or legal concepts, but don't really understand what they mean in detail and how to apply them. And learning what those concepts are, learning how to use them, and then having the confidence to apply them is very important. And I think the practical experience, okay, it's within a classroom here, but people get practical experience through the exercises and the business games of applying concepts in practice, so they can apply this in their work afterwards. And I think another thing is learning from the industrial experience, from expertise, from many years of experience in different countries all over the world, so that delegates can get an understanding of problems that are similar to their own and solutions, but they have been taken up and dealt with even in different continents from all over the world.